Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Marketing Corner. This is episode 12. And Casper, today we're going to talk a little bit about something that is the bane of every marketer's existence, I think. It's something that comes up all the time. And I think it can be a very sensitive subject, but something I think that we should definitely address is how do you handle input in marketing, particularly from non-marketing people, and also managing stakeholders when it comes to their expectations of marketing and the requests that they put on marketing, and making sure that you handle all the requests that will help move the business forward, but at the same time politely decline those that you don't think would fit into the ultimate strategy. I haven't mastered this yet myself, but let me hear your thoughts.
I don't. I can comfort you, Jen. I don't think anyone ever has. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think it's something I've learned a lot in the last year, actually. Ever since I really took up the mantle of leading a team and everything revolving around that. Because when you're, I don't want to say grunt, but when you're on the ground and being a specialist, you typically just have to manage your head of marketing. And it's very rare, it just happened, but it's very rare at least that your head of marketing doesn't know some marketing. Like at least typically a head of marketing at least appreciates marketing, right? So it's typically a problem you face when you start to move up the chain of command, if you can say that, and you have to talk to manage, or not manage, but manage upwards. That's typically what I call it. Yeah. So the one thing I've learned, one of the things I want to at least convey is that you have to make sure alignment becomes so much more of a thing. One of the things we use Monday as a project management tool in fintech, and I use that a lot to actually make sure that everyone's in on my big decisions. So that doesn't mean like when I let's say decide to migrate a page, migrate a company's website or something, or we decide to enroll a SEO agency or a PR press agency. Well, those decisions, I want to at least convey what's happening. So typically I use it actually as my, because if you have a lot of stakeholders, let's say you have 5 people in your C-level, 10 people, I don't know, quite a lot, right? Then it's not feasible for me to write to every one of them every time I make a big decision, say, hey, I'm going to make this big decision. So what I do instead is I make sure I have a board where all of them can see it, and then I update that regularly, and then that way I just make sure they're all aware of the stuff that's happening on a big level, right? So they get a notification that says, okay, I'm looking to hire a SEO agency. These are the ones I'm talking with. Boom. And then if they start, because then it's hard for them also to say, hey, Casper, you hired a SEO agency. You never told me about this. It's updated in here. So that's like, it sounds a little bit micromanagement way, but it's pretty important. So that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I always take a step back when I want to explain things. And it's not, I don't want to sound demeaning or anything. It's just like a good example the other day is I had to explain to a person, and not from fintech, but another person, why search engine optimization was important. And if you've never heard of ranking on Google, then why is it important? And then sometimes you have to do that. Like, and then don't get me wrong, like I would love if I didn't have to explain SEO like that all the time, but sometimes you have. And I think that's fine. Like, because I also know I don't know everything. So I also want that explanation from a developer when he has to explain me some hardcore code. I don't want him to go super technical on me from minute one and like, oh, you're supposed to know that. Oh God, right? Like we don't expect the same. So that's why I'm sometimes like I just make sure to remind myself to say, okay, these people don't work with marketing, have not worked with marketing the way you do. Take a step back and explain it to them. Like on Reddit, there's these things called Eli 5. Explain it to me like I'm 5. So sometimes I remind myself of, okay, that's how you want to do it. And again, it's not to sound condescending. It's just to say like, you need to ensure everyone understands why you're doing it. But also, at least what I've always done is surround you when you're good at what you do, like you and me, Jen. Like we typically also surround ourselves with people, or at least we try to, who believe in us, right? people typically trust us. Like you're the head of marketing, I'm the head of marketing, right? Like we're put in this position because people trust that we know what we do. In the same way that I don't like, I can, yes, I give feedback and comments on other areas of the departments. I don't go and tell them what to do. Like I don't go to our CTO and say, you should, this is what you need to do, and there's no like, this is what you need to do with your developers, right? Like I would never do that. But I trust that he knows that better than I do, which he does, right? So in the same way, they don't like, if you just explain it to them in a rational, simple manner like this, I never had problems. Like it's just like, okay, that makes sense. You do you. Like go do you.
I think that sounds great. However, I'm not really seeing, occasionally, yes, people are like, can you just explain this to me? But a majority of the time it's, why aren't you doing this? And it's that kind of, like you said, I wouldn't go to the CTO and be like, why are you doing this? What, I'd be like, hey, can you explain this to me? Or, maybe I wouldn't ask the CTO, but someone underneath them. But sometimes I feel as though everyone thinks they're a marketing expert, because it can be very based upon your perception of something. I think this should be purple. I think this button should go here. An engineer will know you can't just like, I think the code should look like this. Like it has to look a certain way to work. But marketing is very based on people's opinions. And so, I'm a very data-driven person. So I will test a blue button, a green button, a red button. And if the blue button wins, the blue button goes. But if my CEO comes and goes, I like the green button, where do you go?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, and I do
No.
explain it. And I've had some people who go, okay, cool, thanks very much. And I have others go, I don't care, change it. And so that's where I think sometimes I struggle a little bit. I remember once I had our head of sales at a previous company say, why aren't you bidding on our company name on Google? And I'm like, well, I am. Well, we're not coming up when I type my name, we're not coming up first. And it's like, well, that's because other people are also bidding on our name and we're doing the best that we can. And well, we'll just pay more. It doesn't work that way. I can't just pay more and get higher rankings. There's algorithms, there's website. We'll just change the website. And you're like, dude, like I'm trying my best, and I'm on it. Like I know what I need to do and it's part of our project, but it's not, so I think maybe that's advice for maybe non-marketers listening to this, is like, just know that we know what we're doing. We're not a bunch of idiots, and there is method to the madness, and I wouldn't go to a mechanic and tell them how to do their job. Maybe I'll ask a question here or there till I understand a little bit better. But yeah, I think that's the kind of, maybe for me, the problem is the approach that sometimes happens of why are you guys not doing this, and where are our leads, and why is this there, and why is this website not done yet? And you're just kind of, you're juggling so many different things at the same time.
And I like that's really hard. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sit here like I haven't tried the same. Don't think I've tried it to the same degree as you have, but I definitely know what you're talking about. And I think a lot of people listening will 100,000,000% resonate with that, and that will happen to every marketeer ever. So at least from when it comes to getting feedback, I've actually had a really cool experience back in my Templify days. It's actually not my story, so I'll share it. But I think it was originally, I think it was a CFO. So I think it was my old boss, Glenn. He once told me a story where he had to get some feedback on a strategy deck. And he went and he asked the CFO, hey, because he's good strategy, do you want to give some feedback on my strategy presentation? Then he went in and this guy, he's really cool. He can be super blunt, right? He's like, he cuts the crap, let's put it that way. So he's super blunt.
He's Danish?
He's Danish. He's very Danish.
You're very direct.
Awesome. He's really cool. Like him. He's super cool. And he goes and he's super blunt. And then my old boss, he would go a little bit on the defensive mode. He would defend his choices, right? And then he would cut him off at some point and say, like, hey, dude, stop. Like, I'm giving you feedback out of my time. You asked for my time, and now I'm giving you feedback. You should take what you want and leave the rest of it here. Like, if you don't like the feedback, then leave it. Like, you asked for the feedback, so take what you can use, and the rest of it out of the door. Because I'm the CFO. I'm not a fucking marketing person. Like, I don't know how to do marketing. So take this is my feedback, and you ask for it. Here it is, right? So when we ask for feedback, that's something I've learned like a lot. Like This is like when I ask for feedback, especially website feedback. We just launched a new website. There's so mumuch feedback, right?
Mhm.
Like everyone thinks that the color is wrong and the lines are
Oh
weird
yeah.
and whatever. There's so much feedback, and then I remember some of the team were like, "Oh, there's so much feedback. How do we incorporate it all?" It's like, we're not supposed to. We're
Yeah.
not supposed to incorporate it all. We take the stuff that we think makes sense, that we incorporate, and then some of it is on the blurry side. Maybe we take a discussion on that and like, hey, is there anything we do here? That's cool. And then some of it, when it doesn't make sense from our marketing eyes, and we like go, okay, this doesn't make sense, then we just skip it. Then we don't do
Mhm.
it. And
I think that's a really good, actually, I have an example of that where we were doing a campaign and we've developed a converting landing page for this campaign, super short to the point with the call to action, marketing best practice. And I made the mistake of sending it to everyone who was kind of involved in the planning of this campaign. And I eventually had 13 people telling me how this landing page should look. And we're going back and forth and back and forth. And my marketing team is just pulling their hair out. And one person's like, it's too short, it needs to be longer. So we made it longer. Then they're like, no, it's too long. Someone else is saying this, and I'll put multiple CTAs across everywhere. And we're like, no, like it should just be one call to action. No, I've read somewhere that you can have up to 3 different calls to action. Download this, book this, and it just got bonkers. And the whole project was delayed, and it was just a complete letdown because you spend so much time trying to make everyone happy that you don't actually, the landing page at the end of the day was a piece of crap, to be honest, because it was way too long. It incorporated everyone's opinions. Marketing was completely not listened to. And by the time we got it out the door, it was like 3 days before Christmas vacation, when of course business takes a dip because everyone's gone for the holiday. And yeah, so one of the things we started doing was you use Monday.com, we use Asana, but we have a wish list. And so when people give us these kind of ideas, we'll put them in this list. But like you said, we'll take out what's helpful. But I think the other thing you have to do is the kind of cover your ass method, right? Like I am a director of marketing. I am pretty high up in the hierarchy, but I am not at the top. So if the top say, this is what I want it to look like, I will say, I've heard you, this goes against best practice, or this goes against the advice of the marketing team because of XYZ. However, if you still feel very strongly about this, of course, we will, honor your wishes because you're, you're the big fish. And sometimes they'll go, okay, good point, stick with what you want. Other times they'll say, change it and do my idea. And then you save that and you remember it, screenshot whatever you need to do to kind of, so if it doesn't work, you can kind of go, and that's only come appraisal time, right? That's when you
yeah,
have it for
yeah,
appraisal and they're like, why didn't this
yeah.
campaign work? And you go, this is why it didn't work. But I think, yeah, I think that's kind of how I do it at the moment is, state your claim,
Yeah.
give your reasons, and then
No, it's a
if
good point.
people in the periphery don't agree with you, that's fine. But if it comes from above, sometimes you have to acquiesce, right?
Yeah, and I think I have 2 points to that. And I think it's a great point, and it does happen and stuff, right? And I think the cover your ass is an unfortunate part of working sometimes, just in general, right?
In
Like it's
general, yeah,
something.
not just marketing. Yeah.
But of course, I try to avoid situations where I have to do that as much as I can. So one thing I've at least so I learned a thing from my former boss slash almost mentor, and first of all, one thing I've learned is pick your battles, right? Let's pick our battles right. And so a good example, just and this I can share because I laugh about it now, is we recently rebranded our website, and then we had changed colors and everything, and then we changed colors on our email signature. We had a very bright purple, which I loved and the marketing team loved, but some senior people did not like it. Like they were not a big fan. It was a funny joke. It started as a funny joke. They were like poaching us, and then suddenly it was like a thing they brought up every day. I was like, in the end, I was like, whatever. Let's pick a darker purple. Like we still have it as a color palette, so it doesn't really hurt anything. And who gives a shit? Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Like, is the email signature gonna make or break the business? No, no, it's not. I like the other purple. They like the purple. Whatever. That's not my battle to pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not what I want to spend my mental resources generally on. Like, what the color the email signature. Maybe we change it in half a year, and then maybe it digests easier. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. And I think that's a pretty good like I didn't do it like I was slow to do it back then, but after that, I was really like, what are you doing after this? You should. I just dropped it after 1 second. I'd be like, okay, whatever, let's move on.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. I think it's like about like picking the right balance, because then what is the, let's say, what channels we use, or stuff like value proposition, stuff like that. That's really important. No hard feelings towards email signature, but stuff that's really important. Well, okay, here I really come prepared. I'm really ready to take, I won't call it a fight, but I'm ready, right? Like that one I swallow if I have to, but I'd rather pick that back. I'd rather take that up and then lose the other one. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's good to have that mentality. You can't win them all. If you go into the room and thinking, I want to win every single battle I get into when it comes to marketing, I want to control everything, then you're gonna lose. Like it's either gonna end up in two things: you get dissatisfied because that's never gonna happen, or the other way is you get fired because people get pissed at you.
Yeah.
Right. So, but one thing I did learn from like from my mentor at some point is also just managing upwards. And when it comes to, sometimes a lot of the companies we are in, Jen, and we're going to be real here, right? We have founders that are extremely visionary. Typically, startups, generally startup founders, over all the time I've been around, are extremely visionary people, and that's what makes them brilliant. Like, I think that's really important. That's what makes them brilliant. But it's also very, like, a lot of the visionary founders are typically also not maybe very good operational people. Like, they're maybe not the day-to-day, they're good, but it's not like, that's not their forte. Their forte are maybe selling a vision, right? Let's just imagine that. And then he said to me, my mentor here, he said, okay, so let's give them what they're best at. Like, let them do what they're best at. So sometimes, like, okay, if they find something, this is important, then let them say that that's important and give them that one. And then you operationally fix some other stuff on the side, right? So it's like a dog. You got to keep them on a leash. If they're going rampant and they're like all over the place, like, hey, I want to be visionary about all these different things, then it's not going to be very good. But if you keep them focused, they are insane. They're why you make it. Like, that's why you become a unicorn. If you have like these visionary founders, but sometimes they just need to help them find a direction. If that makes sense. And I think that for me, like, that's at least very early on, I can say that was something I experienced on very early on. I didn't notice back then, but now I recognize, and like, it makes so much sense. And that's what I should have done, which I didn't do, and I would have done had I known that.
No, I mean, that definitely makes sense, and you're absolutely right. You know, and some of the CEOs I've worked for have been, I mean, Matt's at Dixa is incredible. He's such a visionary. And he knows exactly what he wants Dixa to look like and be, and it's such great input, right? When we're trying to design things, and he's really great at giving feedback. However, I have worked for CEOs who want to approve ad copy, and you're just like, oh, really? You're the CEO of a company and you want to see our ad copy? Or they want to approve your social media posts before they go out. And I think sometimes, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard, right? Because the CEO is the CEO. You're not going to go.
And I think one thing that should be stated is, like, it's never worth it to work for someone like who's not supposed to do that. Like, it's not a good boss, right? Like, just as everyone else, marketeers, you and I, and like both of us have great teams now and great bosses, so we're lucky. But maybe someday that changes, right? Or something, right? And then, like, it's never worth it. Like, if you have a CEO who doesn't get marketing and who's like being extremely micromanaged and stuff like that, oh, that can be really uphill battle. So yeah. I think I always try to, and I think you do the same. We always try to do this proactive approach where it's like, okay, I'll change what I can change from my end. Like, I'll do the stuff that I can, update my Monday board, make sure there's and I can do like alignment calls during the week, weekly catch-ups, stuff like that. I do a lot of weekly catch-ups with heads. Sometimes for me, like, what are we talking about? Yeah, I think we covered everything. Okay, goodbye. Moving on. But it's just important to have those. Like, have it in the calendar. Make sure we're aligning on things, because then you avoid the situations where, like, oh, whoa, we're not aligned. We don't agree. We're not supposed to do that. And you don't have to cover your ass, as you say, as much.
And I think if all
of that doesn't work, I think that's my point. Then I think if you're listening to this and all this, you tried all of this and it doesn't work, then you should probably do something else.
Yeah,
Let's
update your
be real.
CV and
Yeah.
work for people who trust you and trust your experience and
Life's
skills.
too short, man. Like life's too short to work for people who are bad at leaderships. Like leadership skills are the most important these days, in my opinion. And there's a lot of people who don't know that or don't know how to do that.
But there's some good ones out there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and once you like, I think like one thing I learned, like, because very early on, I met some good leaders, also met some bad ones. But once you've had a good leader, I've had a really good management, Templify and Compliant, I had great, and also had great management here in the United States. Really happy. Right? Once you've like tried in your past, way back when you had bad management, then you suddenly like, okay, you really start recognizing what the difference between good management and bad management is. And then that totally at least changed my perspective. Like, okay, I will never, these things I can't live with. I always have a list of things that I like. These just need to be in place in order to work with people, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, and my main takeaway would be also the things that will help you make your case, right, are your KPIs, which we talked about in the previous episode. So if you get asked to do something, you can point to the KPIs and go, how does this fit in? Where is this on the KPI map? Or is this distracting us from our KPIs? And that comes out a lot. A lot of times you'll get someone coming, I've got this great idea. And you're like, great, that's wonderful. But if I look at my KPIs, where would this fit in? How is this going to help? If it's going to help, great, we'll throw it into the Asana board. If not, we're going to put it on the wish list. So in the Asana board, we have wish lists and we put tasks in there that are good ideas, but they're not necessarily part of our KPIs. And the other thing that I would advise marketers to do is A/B testing. A/B test the hell out of everything so that when someone says, I think this should be blue, you can go, okay, we've already tested it. The green works best. So here's the data. 9 times out of 10, if they're a good manager, they'll go, okay, cool. Thanks very much. Just my input. The 1 time out of 10 when they go, I don't care, make it green anyway, then at least you've tried. And if it keeps happening,
exactly.
get out.
I 100%. No, I totally agree with you. And it's like, I think that's a point I didn't bring, but you brought it up here. I think it's great because like, I also try, like, whenever you can bring data to the table, do it. Like whenever there's a possibility of, it's A/B testing, it's KPIs, it's budget, whatever it is. If you can bring data to the table and discuss it from you're already bringing more than your counterpart can, right?
Exactly. If you both have your guts, there's going to be a difference in like authority. Maybe someone's gut is going to have more say than yours, but if you have data, then it kind of elevates you.
Like as you said, like it's easy to say I want this in blue versus green, right? But if you suddenly say, if you make it in blue, that means we're going to make 5% less leads, which means 500,000 less revenue this year. Is that okay with you? I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
Get it in writing.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Put it in Slack and get it in writing.
Get it in writing. But I think on that note, we should end today's episode. But I think
but on a positive, sorry, I was just gonna say, let's not end it on a rant because I feel like I ranted a little bit. But on the positive side, know your data, know your shit, and have confidence in your skills, and other people will too.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not rocket science, right? And it's something like, I think we talked about this as a marketing thing. I think this is just in general managing like both people underneath you, but also above. Like having these like alignment, like being aligned, focusing, using a data-driven approach, and then like being proactive and saying like also listening to feedback. I think that's something I forgot to mention maybe, but sometimes I'm like, I listen very clousely to people from other departments, especially sales, when it comes to copy, when it comes to that stuff, because they are closer to the customer. I try to be as closer to customers there. They're still closer to the customers than I am. So their value, their gut feeling, because that's most of the time what they have, is worth more initially than mine. Sometimes, a lot of the cases, right?
Yeah.
So be humble about these things. Like that's what I at least try to do, and I think you try to do the same. And then sometimes, I said, well, really pick your battles, right? You gotta swallow a camel once a year, twice a year.
Swallow a camel. That's a Danish phrase.
That's a Danish.
It's a Danish phrase. Swallow the camel. Yeah. No props. And if you're not a marketer listening to this, be nice with your feedback.
Just be nice.
Don't attack us. We're all on the same team. We're all doing our best.
We're all here for the same reason. Like
Yeah,
I think
don't talk.
that's what I always try to say. Like sales, marketing, development, whatever it is, we're all here for the same reason. We're trying to grow the company. Like if
Yeah,
you're not there for that reason, then
don't be a
and
dick.
on that note, I think we should end.
All right.
Uh,
See you
Thanks
in
for
the next
listening,
episode.
guys. Really cool to have you tuning in every week. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye bye.